When you think about DaVinci Resolve, you probably think about color correction. But what you probably don't think about is actually color correcting or color grading the mask itself, color grading the alpha channel. And that's what today's tutorial is all about. So we're actually going to recreate the thumbnail that you clicked on, the extraction of me with the outline stroke that's been smoothed out, using only the Fusion page of DaVinci Resolve. So if you're up for learning a few intermediate Fusion skills, let's take a look. To start making the thumbnail, just drag any still image to any timeline. And then once your playhead's parked over it, I've got a Sony A7 RAW file, which by the way, you can manipulate on the edit page. Just click the Fusion button and we're in. Now I'm using the workspace layout, mid-flow vertical, if you haven't seen this before. But to get started, we're gonna create our mask with Magic Mask first. So this is a studio only feature, but it's a great way to extract like a person so that we can then place an outline or a new background behind them. So Shift Space, Magic Mask, load that down into the flow, pick and flick to load it into the viewer. And the way it works is all you gotta do is just click, like a single click on the thing you wanna select. And you'll notice right away I've lost visibility of the rest of the image. Well, there's a simple fix for it. All you gotta do, come over to where it says Post Multiply Image, uncheck it, and now you can still see the rest of the image. Maybe I'll select my hoodie there. And then at this point, I would suggest you make it go to the better mode. And because we're working on a single still image for a thumbnail, we don't have to track it at all. So it's really, really fast. Now that all of that's done, I suggest you do two things. One is check Post Multiply Image again, so that goes ahead and cuts it out. And then deselect the tool itself, because if you come in here again and try to zoom and click somewhere else like this, you've actually made another selection accidentally. So I'm gonna hit Command Z. So it's usually just safer to deselect the tool at this point. Now, the other thing I want to make sure you're aware of is at this point, we actually have done two things. We've created an alpha channel and we've applied it. You can see up here, if I go to this viewer, there's our grayscale mask. And the whole point of this tutorial is I want to show you how you can manipulate and modify and color correct this so we have a nice smooth outer edge. If we zoom in real close, you can see there's all that detail on the hair. We're going to get rid of that. But before we even start to manipulate this mask here, is I just want to get a version of this that is just the mask only out of it. And the tool you use in Fusion to do that is called the Bitmap tool. So after Magic Mask over here, I'm going to hit Shift Space Bitmap, and this will just make a mask image out of any image, and it does not connect properly. So I just wanted to show you that. What we want to do is actually, I'm going to hold Shift to deselect that, hold Shift to insert it into the flow down here. Make sure your Magic Mask is going into the yellow input of Bitmap. And once we load that down here into the flow, make sure your channel is set to alpha, which I think it is as a default. But the output of this, it has no red, green, and blue anymore. So if I hit R for red, G for green, B for blue, you see there's no channel anymore. So we're just making this comp a little bit more lightweight, even though we're working at source resolution. I'm going to hit A for alpha, which is just changing these up here. And the first thing I want to do to smooth out this edge and modify this edge before we use our color correction tool is to blur it. So if we blur this edge, it's going to smooth it out. So we lose that detail for the outer stroke. That's the point. So after Bitmap, Shift Space, Blur Tool, pretty simple, but it's in the wrong input again because it thinks it's getting a mask input, so it thinks it needs to go in there. We don't want it going into that blue mask effect input. We want it going into the yellow image input instead. Load this into the viewer, deselect red, green, blue if you want to keep it nice and tidy. We're only working on A for alpha. And you can see this smoothed everything out. But the issue with it right now is it's too soft around that whole edge. We need to sort of firm this up and harden that edge if you want to have those YouTube thumbnails that have that nice, clean, hard edge. The tool, the color correction tool that we use to do that in Fusion, well, there's lots of them. You can use curves, but I'm actually going to use brightness and contrast tool because it has a nice little threshold slider. It's a lot like a levels tool. So to do that, after blur tool, just hit Shift Space again. This is BC is our tool for brightness contrast. Load that in the viewer with 2. And the tool is not set up to work on the alpha channel, just as a heads up. So this is a good little thing to pay attention to. I'm going to deselect red, deselect green, blue, and turn on alpha. And at this point, to make this a harder edge, all you need to do is increase the black low level and decrease the white low level or high level. And you can see that that faint line there is going away. So it's kind of like a levels adjustment, but we're just color correcting the alpha. All I'm carried about is this mask image right now. So at this point, if I were to just use this, I could use this on any sort of solid color, but it would be the exact same size as this mask. So what you want to do is expand it out. And the tool to expand the mask is Erode Dilate. So after brightness contrast, shift space, Erode Dilate. And with this one, load that into the viewer with 2. I'm going to deselect red, green, and blue channels because I'm not doing any of those. And if you go one direction, it erodes, it sucks it in, which is not what we want. We want to go to the other direction and push it out further. And then you have some different sort of filtering methods here. I find for organic things like cutting a person out, if you change this to circle, usually it gives you a little bit better corners and stuff like that. So that's it. That's basically the mask that we've modified and needed to correct. We did a blur, which got rid of all those details on there. Then we did a brightness contrast, which basically, it firmed up those edges. And then the Erode Dilate pushed out that mask further. How are we going to use this mask? Well, we could use it to feed any sort of image or just a solid color background. So let's do that. I'm going to grab a background node from up here, and we can make this any sort of color. Maybe I'll just make it red so you can see very visually right away. And the background node itself, let's hit C for color so we can see the color of the image. The background node itself has a mask. So we've made a mask. We'll just plug our mask into the background node, and there we go. So all we need to do to finish this thing up is just merge our original magic mask that had the color on top of this, and this is the expanded edge. So to do that, a good old merge tool will do the trick. Grab one from up there. Let's see, I'm going to disconnect our media out because that's going to go down a little further. Why don't we take our magic mask output that still has the color, because remember it was at the bitmap when we only took the mask. So we can do a branch. That's one great thing about nodes, right? We can take multiple outputs. If I hold Option or Alt, I can kind of get a little bit more organized, and then I can take, actually I'm doing this backwards, but I'll show you how quickly we can just swap this around. If you take a look at this is backwards, but if you just hit Command T or Control T, it swaps what's background and what's foreground. So that's basically the main trick there to getting a nice little smooth outline. Blur takes rid of those imperfections in the magic mask where it was too much detail. And then the brightness contrast with the levels or the low and high thresholds is what's going to firm that up. Now to get this over a 16:9 graphic for a YouTube thumbnail, I would just make a 16:9 background to put all of this over. So a key concept of Fusion is whatever is the most background is what the output resolution is. So it's easier just to show than talk about. So I'm going to grab another background node to do this. On this one, let's make this a nicer, I don't know, sort of a tealy bluish. This is, yeah, something like this. Looks pretty decent. Since this is going to be the most background of everything, I want to make this my 1920 by 1080 16:9 graphic. I'll do that by going to the Image tab of the background tool, change this so that it's not automatic resolution, which is basically it's pulled from the photograph, what was on the timeline. I'll change this now to just with auto resolution turned off, 1920 by 1080. Now what I can do is just take this result and comp this over the background. Another way you can make a merge, you just take what you want on top, kiss it to what you want on the bottom, which is that background, and it makes an auto merge. See, yellow's background, green's foreground. And then you'll see the scale is like crazy big because I shot with like a, whatever that is, a 33 megapixel camera. But on the merge tool itself, it has transforms built in. If you just want to take the on-screen controls there you'll have, and you can fit that in wherever you want, maybe slide over there. You could do this, of course, with the center and size controls in the merge node as well. Maybe we want to not use red as the stroke, change this to white, and then throw some text on there. All I would do for that is just work on this background stream that we have going now. So why don't I grab a text tool? Maybe we make, instead of saying New York City, we would have it say color correct masks. Something like that. I'll change it to my new font, which is Poppins. That's what I'm liking to use. And so there is that. And I need that to go over my background. So just like I did what I want on top of what I want behind it, it makes an auto merge for me. Let's take a look at our result. You can see the text is totally not the right size. So I can come back over here. Maybe I just move this over here, change the alignments however I want. Maybe I want to change the line spacing. So it's something like that. I can come back and let's see, this merge is controlling the edge of there. And then what is a YouTube thumbnail without a DaVinci Resolve logo? So to add another element to this comp, just media pool, drag a TIFF file, PNG, whatever you got. We'll stick this on top of there. And just like before, we can take this merge tool, place this wherever we need to. And you know what? For just a few minutes, I'd say we got ourselves a little thumbnail there. I don't love this color. I'm going to make a little modification so that it's exactly what you're seeing once I upload this in a few minutes. Something like that might work. And the position of this isn't ideal. It doesn't even necessarily need an extra transform tool. The merge tool itself, the controls on it always act on what's in the green foreground. So you've got things like center and size. So you can keep things a lot more, slim if you want to. Yeah, and if you need to change the thickness of the stroke, you know how all this is built, so you have complete control over all this. So remember, Erode Dilate is what was the thickness of that stroke that was there. So if you want it thicker or thinner, that's where that is. If you want it smoother, that's your blur control. To export it, all you got to do, right-click on the image, and you come over here to save image. First thing, make sure your node that you have selected is the state of the image that you want to export. So I've got merge 2 down here selected. Right-click on the image, say save image. Give it a spot like a desktop. That's always a good idea. You can change that to a JPEG, a PNG would be uncompressed. Hit save. And then when you come over to your desktop, click on your JPEG, you've got a thumbnail that you can go ahead and kick out and roll that out to your YouTube video. My name is Chadwick. This channel is called Creative Video Tips, where I teach all things about DaVinci Resolve. I really do appreciate you sticking with me today. And because there's so much more to learn, I'll see you in the next video.